All right, welcome in everyone. The NFL Weekly Podcast Show is back. It's BTB Analytics. We're in December. December football in the NFL is here. Glorious time. Bunch of badass weather games. Teams really turning on the dials, turning on the intensity. Playoff implications already. You got the I love this time of year for NFL football. So you guys know the drill. We got a bunch of good matchups to break down. We're going to talk about data. We're going to talk about value from the model perspective and elsewhere. You know the drill. Let's start the show.
Give a damn about a hater when I feel like it. Not today, not today, not today, not tomorrow. Get out my way, please. I'm trying to get paid. Not today.
Okay, boys. Yeah, December is here. It's a wonderful, wonderful time of year for the NFL. So, a few good matchups to break down in this one. It also feels like it's going to be a weird weekend in the NFL. And as total side note or tangent, I'll touch on that a little bit later. But yeah, let's talk about matchups. Let's not beat around the bush anymore. Thursday night football should be another fun one for sure. Green Bay Packers going up against the Detroit Lions. So. Opener was at 4. We make the number 3 in favor of Detroit. So a little bit of value on the Packers right now, but this hasn't really moved off of that number. And I think throughout the market right now is still pretty much 3.5s yet. So not enough for us to play it yet. So I won't give away my tell on this one because I think actually you and I, Seth, have different picks on this one for off the numbers. So we might even just kill two birds with one stone in this one. So maybe I'll start with Steve, and maybe he's the logical one of the bunch this time around. We'll see. So, Steve, these two teams played a few weeks ago, and Detroit, handled business down up in Lambeau. So, how are things different this time around, if they are at all different in your opinion? And what do you think the numbers and the data and the game script is for the Packers, I guess, and/or the Lions to cover here?
Yeah, I mean, at face value, this is one of the ones where, we talked about this I think last week, you talked about, just Lions and their road to the Super Bowl is probably one of the best teams in the NFC and how, stacked the NFC North is. I think this is one of the ones where we talk about kind of week in, week out. Lions are really, really, really freaking good on offense and balanced in both ways. And oh, by the way, defensively as well, they're pretty stout on that side of the ball. Against a Packers team that, again, as a Bears fan, it absolutely kills me to say this, but yet again, the Packers just figure out a way to win and week in and week out, and they're looking pretty damn good in that tight NFC North race. My gut value as a fan was, the Lions look kind of unstoppable. I mean, we saw them kind of have a blemish against Houston and, kind of what they did on the back end of that in the second half, but for me, I kind of want to throw a lot of that away. You look here at the EPA, both offensively and defensively for these two teams, and I think this is what you would expect. You have two NFC North divisional teams. Yeah, they've already played. Yeah, the Lions came in as a small favorite the first time and covered, but it's really hard to beat a good team twice, especially in divisional flow. So,
sure.
Kind of just taking the numbers out of it, we see kind of where they're equal at in terms of their offensive and defensive prowess. But over 3, it's really hard for me to not to take those points. So I think, Kev, you had the Packers plus 3.5 here. And I don't want to agree with you because I hate you, but I think this is one of the ones where I think that's kind of a smart pick.
No, Kevin's even crazier. He's got money line.
Yeah, jokes on you.
I have Green Bay. I have Green Bay plus 3.5.
Well, then in that case, I could fully support you, Seth.
Yeah, look, I look my from when we're talking about off the numbers, my jig is up, so to speak. I just follow the model where it's not 4%, so 3%. I'll take it because at least I have an edge here. I wanted to point something out here for Green Bay. If you want to be a Green Bay backer, and probably I'm going to make the case for why I think Kevin's bets actually, if you're going to be a Green Bay backer, is probably the way to go. And just his bet is for the money line. This is not an official play, but I want to point something out that's interesting about the Packers numbers. If you look at their offensive EP, so offensive expected points added per game, we're about at 8.03 points per game. So they're adding that many points per game above an average team. Now, the offensive success rate, you'll see there at 43%. So fewer than half of Green Bay's plays are deemed successful, but yet they're one of the leading offenses in the NFL. This is a huge boom or bust offense. This is explosive plays saving them. Now, this is maybe a case why you want to fade Green Bay here, because maybe you believe Detroit's defense won't allow them to have those explosives, won't allow them to have these boomer bust plays or limit them. But if you want to be a Green Bay backer, these boomer bust plays are going to be high variance, meaning those are the games that somehow upset Detroit, right? And that's how you win an upset there. But something I wanted to just point out, because these numbers are really interesting. If you look at from an echo rate, their echo rate for getting to the 40 or better, both at about 58%. So when you look at it from a drive standpoint, they're getting there the same. They're just very different operational offenses, where Detroit's having a 4% higher success rate on a per down basis. To me, that's really concerning for Green Bay, even though for off the numbers, I'm going to be there. But again, it's just because of the value.
Yeah. A lot of that I obviously makes sense and kind of agree with as well. And I think one of the taking it a step further for me in thinking why I'm on the money line on them for this one is, if you zoom in a little bit, have a little more recency bias, if you will, and look at the last 4 or 5 weeks and how these teams have performed, it's a lot more neck and neck in terms of offensive and defensive efficiency. So, and Chad brought this up in the chat too, what about injuries? What about injuries to Detroit? It's not something we really quantify outside of quarterback injuries, but I don't think it's something that we should, or at least I'm not completely ignoring. So they've lost 11 guys on the front seven. To year to date so far, and their injury report earlier today, 3 more on the line are
This is Detroit.
3 more on the defensive line did not participate, and the outlook is gloomy at best for them, as well as their left tackle is again unlikely to play. So I think a little bit of regression is going to come Detroit's way. And does it happen this week? I don't know, but these teams, again, zooming in on last 4 or 5 weeks, they're a lot more similar than you might expect. And so you're giving me Packers money line at plus 166. I think this should be closer to like a 45, 55%, but you're letting me buy it at 37%. So I decided to hit the money line.
Yeah. I also we Steve and I pointed this out last week. You're just getting absolute peak of the market pricing for Detroit. Like, you're just buying at the top. This is Tesla right before the earnings call. Like, this is, and we saw last week, they think they closed at a 10-point favorite. I think they were open at an 11-point favorite against Chicago, and Chicago, we'll talk about that later, I'm sure, but they clearly easily covered that game.
Yeah.
And Green Bay is an interesting team. Look, I'm betting with the model, but look, if you want to be a Lions backer, I mean, I think you want to seem smart to your friends, just be like, their EPA per play is really efficient, but their offensive success rate is really low. This means it's a boomer bust offense, and there's going to be a week where they're going to shit the bed. It's got to happen. It's going to happen unless they're going to converge to a non-boomer bust offense, and they're going to improve their success rate on a per play basis. Sure, that's one pathway.
Also possibility.
But if they stay this way, we're going to see an ugly game from Green Bay in the coming weeks at some point. It might be this week. It might be, weeks to come. But that's the one thing that I think is a huge Achilles heel for this team.
Yep, makes sense. So it should be another good one, though. However, either way you slice it, Thursday Night Football should be a fun one. So, all right, let's move on. We got another one and a model play that we're on as well. Let's talk about the Carolina Panthers and the Philadelphia Eagles. So we are on Eagles minus 12 in this one. We make the regress number 19. I think the market is still 12 and a half pretty much throughout the market at this moment. So insane amount of on paper value, but heuristic here is you never have the edge that you think you have. So let's talk about the nuance there and why there's so much value on Philly and kind of where that's coming from.
So this one's a very difficult game to model. The true number is probably closer to 16 or 17. So we have a specific methodology. I'm sure anybody watching us or listening to us is not new to hearing about this. But what it does is, specifically for these rookie quarterbacks / second-year quarterbacks, it gives us a really small sample size. So we're left to either use their full sample or use this little, divvy up basically a sample to be a rookie and a sample to be their second year starts. When you do that, you get this 19 number when you look at just their second year starts. Now, when we use the full sample, I'm sorry, I said that backwards. When you use the full sample of Bryce Young, you get this 19. If you just use this second year sample, you get something closer to 16. So I think that's probably closer to the real number. The other really difficult thing to forecast here is Bryce Young has been playing better. Now, we were on Tampa Bay last week. I'll save my bitching for my private life, but we did point out how Tampa Bay could be susceptible in that game. And to me, that's exactly what happened. Tampa Bay is one of the most efficient offenses, but their defense actually was on par with Carolina. So when we're talking Philadelphia, we're getting the opposite here. Philadelphia is a top 10 defense and has been improving week by week, as well as adding the really efficient offense. So that's what I think the model's picking up here is you're getting peak defensive matchup for Philadelphia here against one of the worst offenses, and you're adding the kind of offensive efficiency that Tampa Bay brought last week. So you shouldn't see the Carolina success rate that we saw. Shouldn't be able to drive on them. Now, you also then, mentioned it briefly. You have this unknown. I'm not ready to buy in any of the hype, but is Bryce Young reborn? I'm not seeing anything that would make me believe that. But there is something going on. He seems to be playing a little bit better, and the team overall a little bit better. So, that's another aspect of forecast. You can't. It's next to impossible to forecast his improvement week to week. You're just taking an average of the sample and hoping that's representative. But a guy like this, you could argue maybe it's not.
Right. Agreed. Steve, yeah. What are your thoughts on this one? Because to add on one point to that is defensively speaking, Bryce Young might be coming along a little bit and kind of starting to figure some things out. Games starting to slow down, all that type of thing. But no team has been better defensively than the Eagles over the past 4 or 5 weeks, really. So that's a unit that's really, really turning around, and they are just killing fools out there.
Yeah, and Seth said it, pretty well, and that's kind of where I'm at too. I think this one is because there's so much space or fluff or extra left over between what the regress number is and what the market is right now. It makes you feel a lot more comfortable. And this is something where we had made it 13 and if we've made something that was more aggressive truly to a 13 and a half, 14, whatever we end up being at, that I would have a little more concern because to Seth's point, you are seeing a different version of Bryce Young. Now, this is against Tampa Bay, Kansas, and the Giants. So 2 of those 3 teams, we talk about having a decent defense, right? But these aren't the elites of the elites. But they're also not the bottom feeders. With that being said, though, I think the difference is going to be here, like Seth already mentioned, you're going to have a more complete team in Philadelphia. You're not having the holes there. And quite frankly, it's one of the things that I really didn't appreciate, but it does feel like Jalen Hurts and that Philadelphia Eagles offense is really sort of morphing into the Saquon show. I mean, you can see here the pass rate over expected, negative 9.7%. So they're throwing the ball, they're running the ball almost 10% more over average in expected scenarios. And that, of course, has a lot to do with Saquon. So you're pulling that stuff off of Jalen Hurts. Whereas Tampa Bay last week, Baker is a gunslinger through and through. You're not going to get some of those same opportunities for havoc and turnovers with Baker. Then I think you're going to get with this Philly offense. It's going to be more conservative. So can Carolina stop that? And even though Bryce Young is playing better, that defense, I think, is still very susceptible to what Philly's going to bring on offense. And that's why I feel pretty comfortable with this bet.
Yeah. I think the tackle rate says it all. Philly, 55% of their offensive drives get to the 40 or better. Carolina, 41% of the drives. Defensively, Philly, 43% of the defensive stands they have. The offense only gets to the 40. Carolina, 57% of their opponent's drives get to the 40 or better. I mean, that's insanity here. So it's basically they're not going to stop. Carolina's not going to stop Philly, and Philly should, by all means, be able to stop Carolina if Carolina doesn't even stop themselves. So this one can get ugly. This is what we don't use this word in NFL much, But this might be alt season. You might want to. Now the problem is it's not very sexy alt season because there's 13s in the market. This market is opinionated, and it makes sense here because you maybe have different camps with Bryce Young. This thing opened at 12, shot up all the way to 13, still sitting some 13s, but it's clearly been buyback now, sitting at 12.5 over at Circa. So it's like it's a war here going on between 13 and 12, and kind of sitting at 13. But I would be shocked, barring no crazy injuries, that late mature money moves this to 14. I wouldn't be shocked by that. So I don't know. Maybe now you play the 13.5, or like what's a reasonable alt? 16.5.
I have one question before I give my opinion on it. We have not officially or even unofficially done any alt seasons in the NFL? Have we?
No, we've never done any alt season in the NFL.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And to your point earlier, you don't have the talent discrepancy generally that you do in college with the NFL. Like these are all dudes, right? These are all highly talented individuals. So what is a reasonable alt? I
maybe none.
I don't know if I don't know if there is one, frankly. I wouldn't feel comfortable personally. In this one, it's just such a high.
It's high variance. No shit.
Yeah, it's like high variance, and it's just
Carolina could lose by 3. They could win by 3. I think it's like a field goal or it's 20. Eagles win by 21.
Yeah.
This has the feeling that it could get out of hand. I mean,
fair. That's the Commanders, who they lost to 33 by.
Yeah,
exactly.
So I think it's more defensively. I mean, how many do you get a defensive score here? Maybe that's where value. There's
in some other markets, right?
Yeah. Carolina's starting to get this like, oh yeah, like hey, they gave the Chiefs a run for their money. They gave Tampa again. We were on Tampa. We talked about it on the show about how Carolina could have success, and that's exactly right. Tampa could pretty much do whatever they wanted. In fact, they were able to do so much that they just were like, okay, we'll go win the game now in overtime. Not covering, unfortunately, but I just wonder here if that recency bias in people's minds are going to forget how poor this offense is on average. And then I mean, that Philadelphia team looked really good against Baltimore, which is one of the best offenses, and they beat Washington, who's the other best offense.
Yeah,
exactly. So okay, I'm sticking with the model play on this one. Yeah, all season for another.
Yeah, I think we bet of 12. We have a 12. We would bet a 12.5. I don't think we'd touch it beyond that. You're getting a key here through the 14. I mean, if you want to buy into the hype here of our model, I wouldn't play this thing. I would stop playing. Bet it now. 12.5 is fine. Because the problem with the 13 is missed PATs. There's just weird football numbers. You get 13, you just push. You're going to push a fair amount at 13, and then obviously you're getting another huge bump through the 14. So I think 12.5 is really where you want to buy it.
Yep.
There's
makes
12.
Sense. Yeah, there's 112. It's everyone else, I think, is 12.5 at the moment. So
ESPN bet DK.
Oh, a couple of them. All right, shout out.
12 minus 110. You can get it now. Get it before it's gone. Because I think
get it while it's hot, boys. All right. Before we move on, I appreciate you guys tuning in. Don't forget to like the video if you haven't already. Please subscribe to the channel if you're watching and are not subscribed. We're here every week talking about the matchups, trying to pinpoint the value either from the model's perspective or other angles that we like as well. So trying to give you guys no nonsense commentary and thoughts into the NFL. So appreciate you doing both of those things. If you could, let's move on though. Let's talk about the next matchup on our slate. We got the New York Jets and the Miami Dolphins. Another model play for us in this one. We are on the Dolphins -6.5. This opened at 5.5, and we made the number 7 at that point. We got 6.5 -105, I believe, as well. So model likes the Dolphins in this one, and it doesn't feel like it's quite two teams completely divergent, but the Jets are definitely they're talking about benching Rodgers, or there's talks, I should say, about him getting benched. And so that's just been a disaster through and through, and RIP to all of our futures on that as well. But Miami on the flip side, Seth or Steve, is since they've gotten Tua back, they've obviously have been a lot more efficient and have kind of a lot more of those shades of the old kind of Dolphins team that we've come to expect from them. They're not quite there yet. They struggled in classic Dolphins fashion in cold weather games, or in a cold weather game last week in Lambeau. But yeah, this one is screaming for me again, like mental model and model is like fucking full go, like full send, baby, like double dip. Why not on this one? So somebody talk me down. I need to relax on this one because I really want to fade the Jets in every way I can.
I can have a go at it. I mean, the problem is you're getting some buyback now. The 5.5 that we show there was really never available. It was at Circa, technically an open, where they were kind of trying to find the floor. The 5.5 was really never available at any retail books. We went ahead and bet a -6.5, -105, but Circa and Chris are now back at 6. So, I mean, you're getting early market support here on the Jets. Where that's coming from, I mean, you can, if you just isolate, last week and you forget about the second half, I mean, the Jets looked like they have in fits and starts in the season. They've had glimpses of being a really good team, but yeah, they haven't been able to put it together, not only for multiple weeks in a row, but sometimes not even 2 consecutive halves. So I can see why you like it. I don't know what we're getting with this Miami team. It does seem like a tale of two tales, or 2 teams. We talked about it last week. We showed the graph. Since Tua has been back, Miami is the #1 pass EPA team in the league. Now, obviously, we saw them take a step back in the cold weather, which is the classic narrative, but this is in sunny Miami. So, I don't know about rain, but it ain't going to be cold. So, in that sense, you should be okay there. Like it or not, I think the one thing here is for us, we wouldn't bet it at anything above -6, -105. So if you want to bet this with us, I think grabbing the 6s now, or getting the 6.5, there's a -102, I think is the only way I would support betting it. It's a marginal bet. We're making this exactly a touchdown.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will do no such thing in terms of talking down from a ledge, Kev. I think Seth has done our due diligence on this channel of providing solid betting advice and smart data-driven approaches. But I mean, this is just tough, dude. I mean, this Jets team looks like an absolute disaster, and really, it's kind of all around Aaron Rodgers. I mean, we kind of joked last week, will the real AR stand up? And we gave that moniker over to Anthony Richardson because he looked more like an AR than Aaron did after the Colts beat the Jets a couple weeks ago. So I guess for me, like I'm with you, Kev. This is one of the ones where we talk about, and listen, Seth knows this way more intimately than I do. But this is one of the ones where I wonder from a mental model standpoint. We talk about how we model the quarterback play with just the quarterback and their stats, meaning that in this Dolphins prediction here, you're looking at Tua and the games that he's played. So his play is solely responsible for his contribution to what the numbers are. But you are getting a Tua who is getting his groove back. We've seen this offense kind of improve week in and week out for the most part. Again, definitely take out last week. And then on the Jets side, you're seeing kind of the opposite. And I think what I struggle with in can the Jets win or even cover this game is you've seen the last few weeks. Now, granted, they weren't touchdown wins and all of them, but you've seen the Jets struggle against these kind of mobile quarterbacks who are known for big plays. They lost to Kyler and the Cardinals. They lost to Geno and the Seahawks. They lost to Anthony Richardson and the Colts. And that's just kind of looking over the last 3-4 weeks here. So I expect more of the same. Yeah, I get you, Seth. I'm not going to get crazy and go all season, but I've been dying for the last few times the Jets have played because we've either been on the Jets or fringe, it's almost value. The Jets are ass. The Jets are ass. I can finally say it loud and proud and in full support as we back the Dolphins.
Yeah, and in your support of Tua getting his groove back, like how Tua got his groove back, 5.3 points added per game. AR, who's not the real AR, 1.7 points per game added in their last 10. So I mean, Tua is 2.5 times the quarterback AR is. So yeah, I don't know.
Do you guys remember the week Tua came back?
Yeah, week 8 against the Cardinals.
Week 8. Okay. Then I had it pulled up right. So yeah, to your point earlier too, Seth, no team has been more efficient in per play metrics passing the ball than the Dolphins since Tua has been back.
Yeah.
I mean, here we are.
No, the problem is it's not like, I mean, the Jets are still, middle of the pack against the pass. Not like they're 31st
sure.
32nd. So you're not, I don't know. I mean, it does feel like this is crumbling. I mean, they're literally. I mean, we're only sitting here because there's no one left else to fire. But every week they're just they were losing a limb.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just nobody else left.
That's what I'm saying. This one feels like it transcends the box score and transcends the play-by-play stuff.
Yeah, this just feels cancerous / I don't know. Will they bench Rodgers?
Feels like an enigma, right?
Tyler Taylor. Yeah, and then honestly, that's my fear. My fear is I forgot what week that was. I think it was when Mac Jones started over Trevor Lawrence because of the injury. Like, that's my fear, is that we get a midweek announcement. Aaron Rodgers is not playing, and all of a sudden Tyrod Taylor is leading this offense and giving them
Tyrod Taylor's good. Oh, dude, I bet you the model likes Tyrod more than Aaron Rodgers.
Well, let's not go there yet.
I'm going down with the ship.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, we'll see. We'll see what happens in this one.
They should totally bench Aaron Rodgers. Tyrod Taylor's a good quarterback.
Yeah, they probably wouldn't do it in game. At least that's my presumption, but I could be. Who the hell knows over there?
Can I just say real quick? What poetic justice would it? Because they've been talking about how Aaron has been trying to avoid, the medicals because they don't want to find an injury for reason to bench him. What poetic justice? And I'm not wishing on him. Would it be though if like Aaron has some checkup and that doctor who punctured Tyrod's lung back when he was with the Chargers comes in for one more hit for
snaps AR's Achilles.
God bless.
I don't know. This feels weird. I don't know. Yeah, this does seem like a weird team.
That's the bottom line. So whatever, we're locking a value where we see it, where we find it. So Dolphins 6.5 -105.
Should we a priority right now? We've never done this in the NFL, but are the Jets like a no bet team with Aaron Rodgers starting?
A no fly list, if you will.
Yeah, a no AR list.
In a vacuum, maybe, but when you consider that they still got to play another team, and I think it matters I still think it matters who that other team is. And like I said at the start, like this is a team again.
They were
recency
winning
bias
by
where
14 against. I mean, and they had a chance to win by 20, like go up by 3 scores.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying.
The problem here is like there's just something going on that we don't know about.
Yeah.
This is why I hate listening to media and stuff. I don't know. I maybe have convinced myself of that, but like, why are they talking about injury stuff if there's not a real injury? And it looks like there is an injury. It doesn't look like this guy is just like, a bill of health.
There's definitely injuries to egos over there for sure.
I mean, shout out. I mean, we'll save it for the Bears, but they definitely take the number one in my mind.
All right, enough being a dead horse on this one. All right, let's move on. We got one more matchup to talk about. I don't think this isn't a Sunday night game, right? This is just kind of a mid-morning game. So, AFC North matchup. Let's talk about the Cleveland Browns and the Pittsburgh Steelers. So again, one more model play that we're on officially. We are on Steelers -6.5, -110. And that's largely where the market resides at the moment. There's a couple of expensive juiced 7s that exist, but largely 6.5s as well. So, this one, Seth, again feels. It's hard for me to find any reason, or a ton of reason rather, to disagree or be contrarian here with the model. Yeah. Other than you saw just literally a day ago when the Browns and Broncos were on Monday Night Football, you see the Jameis Winston experience, and that was the quintessential Winston game. You got the highs, you got the lows, you got everything in between, and AKA you get variance with Jameis Winston.
Variance. Yeah, you get variance. The only thing I would point out is that you get the variance, and in this case, if you were a Bronco better, the variance went in your direction, and it seems like it was an easy cover. But really, was it? I mean, you had to rely on two pick sixes.
A last minute pick 6 basically that sealed it.
which is, not necessarily something you can hang your hat on. The only thing, look, I can walk you through the numbers. The most important number to me here, if you're hesitant about this bet, defensive echo rate, Cleveland, 43%. Defensive echo rate, Pittsburgh, 43%. We think of this Cleveland team as kind of maybe regressing from where they were last year, and maybe they have from last year, but they're still a good defense this year. And you can definitely have a game where they give Russ and co, trouble. And so I think that, to me, that's the game state you're trying to avoid. But I'm with you when it comes to mental bottle. You guys have been able to get mental boners. This one's the one that gives me a mental boner here. Where, yeah, I like what they're doing here. Russ, this seems just, and I want to go on my soapbox again. I point this out week after week. Preseason, this was, oh my gosh, have you ever seen a harder schedule? This is just insane. They have to play this team and this team. They're going to get eaten alive. Undefeated in that time. Russ looks like he's just slanging that thing. I mean, now they're making Mr. Unlimited cool. They're gonna put those
who would have thought
back on TV.
How wild.
He looks resurrected, dare I say. I mean, and whatever they're doing, it's good. Now we don't think we have it on our numbers. I don't know, Eric, if you can pull that up. Now we do track third down conversion, and this is a team that is relying on a lot of third down conversion to sustain their drives. And I've heard that kind of as a talking point about why Pittsburgh can regress, or what their potential quote unquote weakness could be. In our research, it really, in our model, we have a third down variable, and we take this into account. And what we've actually quantified, or what we've actually found in the data, is a little bit more nuanced to that. It isn't teams. If you use a variable, how many third down or what the proportion of third downs you have are, it's not predictive. But what is predictive is how many drives you convert, aka how many third downs you convert. And the good teams, they convert third downs. They don't just avoid third down. Sure, there's a whole thing in the NFL now about being really efficient on first and second down. Of course, this is really important, but it's still the truth that the elite teams in the NFL, they convert their downs, whether they have them or not. And so I do want to point that out. And I think that's something I know the model is picking up here, is that, yeah, Pittsburgh does have a lot of third downs, but they convert a lot of them, meaning they sustain a lot more, many more drives. And so that's something you're going to want to be looking at here. If you're betting this, 6.5 is the key. It is the key. Do not chase this thing through the 7. Get it while it's hot. The market making books are still at 7. Now they're juiced 7s, but it's only as this market gets more mature and they do not get money on the Brown side, this is going to flip to 7s very quickly at all the retail books. They're only willing to put the 6.5 right now because it's not a liquid market right now. We're only sitting here Tuesday. You can only bet 20 grand. Tomorrow, 30, 40. When we get to Thursday, Wednesday, Thursday, if these do not flip at market making books, all of the 6.5s at retail books are going to move to 7s. So act while you can if you want to be a Pittsburgh backer. If you don't want to be a Pittsburgh backer and you want to be a Cleveland, wait, because I think that if the market makers don't move this off the 7, they don't get any price action, you're going to be able to get a 7.
Yes, Caesars, or no, excuse me. Yeah, Circa minus 127, Bookmaker minus 119, 7 as well, to your point.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll see how that all shakes out. Several more days to go. Like you said, it's early in the week still, but
yeah,
could be.
I keep a close eye on this injury report too. I know you guys saw that game last night, but Myles Garrett was kind of limping on and off the field, kind of all night in the second half. I think Denzel Ward ended up coming back. I think he was out for a couple plays, but I may be a little curious too. Again, if you're a hesitant Steelers backer and you couldn't believe what Seth said to get you to the promised land, wait at your own peril. But that is something that I think could dramatically also affect this game at the half point level. So
it's fair. Garrett is worth a point, if not 2 points. So know thyself. If you want to be a Pittsburgh backer, 6.5, it's not getting better in my opinion.
Right.
This is moving to 6. Yeah. If you want to be a Cleveland backer, I would wait. I think this is moving through 7, if not 7.5.
Yeah. Okay. All right, there you have it. So those are all the matchups we're talking about this week on the slate. So let's zoom out as we always do and talk some landscape and kind of 30,000 foot. December again, like we said, December football is here. So this is where kind of by the week probably you'll have teams either starting to clinch playoff bursts and or get eliminated from playoff contention as well. So they're not technically eliminated yet, but I mean, how fast the mighty have fallen. I want to get you guys' take on the Niners. Largely this has been, at least from my vantage point, injury related. They've been decimated on multiple fronts there. So that's been kind of wild to see, frankly, just considering how good they've been the past few years. It just seems like it's a cliff that they kind of jumped off of. And so, want your take on the Niners, because and then the Chiefs. Are they the fakest 11-1 team to ever have been? Or
they can't keep doing this. You guys remember like the Staples that
why
was
not? Why not?
commercial, or like what was it, the Buffalo Wild Wings commercial? Like, oh man, I want this game to go to overtime. I wish this thing would happen. They pull the lever. That's how I feel about the Chiefs winning. You know, I mean, yeah, can they continue doing it? Sure. I mean, honestly, at this point, it seems like it's in the stars. And I'm not saying like, oh, this is rigged and blah blah blah. But it does seem
the script is in.
I'm not a scripter, but last week was the closest I got to being a scripter. the Raiders were driving that ball. They had that game won, and a botch snap out of nowhere, and then Kansas City gets the recovery. I do have concerns about Kansas City longevity wise in the playoff, but we say it's every year. Oh, they're not blowing out teams. Oh, they're not doing that. They don't look as dominant. And what do? They go and win the Super Bowl. So, it's the fakest version of the Chiefs that I've ever seen, but I just don't know how you can still count them out. Even
and the markets moved in their favor so far in the early going. So it's like, you know,
I mean, back to San Francisco. I chalk it up to a lot of injury. I mean, we were borderline going to bet them this week, and quite frankly, we probably should have at the 3.5. That pretty much got bought up pretty quickly. But I have questions on who's going to run the ball there.
Right.
I think the mighty have fallen. This is par for the course of the NFL. I think this is a potential buy. You're going to be able to get San Francisco at good prices next year, assuming they don't fire Shanahan. Kansas City, Mahomes is inevitable. They will shit the bed. To me, this is a potential week where they might shit the bed. And there's some the only reason you're seeing, I don't think you're seeing Kansas City money. I think you're seeing McConkey news that he's doubtable for this game. So I don't download that as the same thing. Like, I think this is a market adjustment. Now, Chargers might be getting a key tackle back, which if that's confirmed, I bet you see this move a lot closer to the 3. But McConkey being out is a huge piece of their offense. But you know, a healthy Chargers team versus a healthy Chiefs team, I would be on the Chiefs there. But the real question I want to ask is Steve, and about the Bears, and I want to go on a quick soapbox as well.
Sure.
We pointed this out over and over and over and over. Go back, check the tapes for preseason stuff, and we said rookie quarterbacks are a huge Achilles heel for teams in the NFL. It is insanely difficult for basically assessing talent accurately, specifically at quarterback position. We saw the same damn thing play out 2 years in a row, where you have the first round pick be the touted number 1 great guy. He's a generational talent. And then last year was the 2nd overall pick in CJ Stroud. Now it's the 3rd overall pick with the Washington Commanders and whatever that guy's name is. But JT didn't know Daniels, whatever. Jaden Daniels. So, talk to me about where you are with Chicago. Obviously, we're coming off of Eberflus being fired and the basically shitting of the bed end of the game, where the clock management was horrible. They could have potentially kicked a field goal. They had a timeout. So talk to me about those two things. From a Bears fan, what did they botch this whole quarterback situation, or do you think they played it right? And then where do you go from here?
Yeah. For me, I'm not ready to say they botched the quarterback situation. But to your point, though, it's 100% accurate. It is insanely hard to forecast a good quarterback coming in as a rookie. I mean, we talk about Ryan Leaf to this day, generational number one bust, right? Like it's never an open and shut case. I think the bigger issue though is that you have an organizational failure. That's what's going on with Chicago. I mean, think about how we kind of saw this in the last few years, right? You already mentioned the Bryce Youngs and kind of how they look with, kind of a change of scenery. We talk about, what is Zach Wilson and what does that look like if he weren't with the Jets? This is one of those things where I think you need time to give Caleb to develop and put him in a system that actually thrives. What I'm concerned about now is I think we're way better with Eberflus being gone. A lot of questionable decisions. We already fired our offensive coordinator. Now we have the interim Thomas Brown in right now. What is that going to do for Caleb's development, though? Because I think he's getting very, very close to bust territory because you have this now where he's going to have to learn at least 2 systems, right, in 2 years. And we did the same thing with Mr. Trubisky. We saw how that turned out. We were doing the same thing with Justin Fields. Saw how that turned out. So I don't know, man. I mean, it's sad because it's mismanagement, and we'll never know. Well, I feel like we'll never know what Caleb's ceiling is because you didn't give him a chance to thrive, and you see that with quarterbacks far too often.
Yeah. Well, shout out to under 8.5 wins, and shout out to not making the playoffs. Any loss that they take for the rest of the season will cash that ticket for under 8.5, and their chances of making the playoff are near zero.
Yeah. Especially in that division. Like you got three, it might actually be zero. Yeah, the other 3 teams are making the playoffs more than likely in that division. So shit, even if they go on some generational run to end the season, I'm not sure it's enough at this point.
But I think to that point, real quick though, to Seth's point about trying to draft a quarterback and not knowing what you're getting, I still stand by this. I mean, I said this before. I've said this. Check the tape, like Seth says. If the Bears had a chance to draft Patrick Mahomes, we chose Mitch Trubisky. If we drafted Patrick Mahomes, you would not know who Patrick Mahomes is like you know him today. Yeah. And I think the same thing applies today. We drafted Jaden Daniels, who's having a hell of a year. I don't think we may be having the exact opposite conversation. Caleb Williams is killing it in Washington. Is Jaden Daniels a bust? Like, there's so many things that go into this, why it's so hard to do, because it's not just the player, it's the player and the coaches and the system. And you can have a great player, but if they don't fit your system, it's not going to work out well. And that's on the teams.
The NFL, no one wants to talk about, has a baked-in selection bias. So the best talent goes to the worst team by definition, right? Because they draft earlier. And in this case, the Bears are drafting, in this case, because they're bad and they made some good moves, but also goes to show you how difficult talent, vetting is. Like, to accurately rate these guys is not an easy thing to do. But it's also just these things take time. Like, I was just always perplexed how the Bears were. I mean, we got the minus 110 to miss the playoffs.
Right.
Their numbers were, over under 8.5 wins at plus 140. I mean, they were talking Super Bowl. This is our year. We got Roma Dunze. It was just like, we're unstoppable. And it's just, we're going to win 11 games. I mean, there's the clips coming out now. It's like, what are you learning? Caleb's like, games are easy, practice is hard. It's like, welcome to the league, right?
Yeah. Can I say one last quick thing? To your point about assessing talent, Justin Fields, our other, first round pick, had the highest Wonderlic test for the NFL, kind of their IQ test, and he was off the charts. He's supposed to be this generational talent, and we saw that worked out. So it's incredibly hard to assess talent and make it work.
Or should they have kept him?
Don't get me started. Don't get me started.
You'd be in the same situation.
Speaking of incredibly hard to assess things, let's talk for a few minutes about off the numbers like we normally do. So our weekly picks going up against each other. So our college edition of it kind of came to an end here since the regular season's over. Seth and I kind of talked about our angles already on this one, being both on the Packers in different respects. Seth and Steve, you guys are neck and neck now. I'm just one game ahead of you guys at 6-4. So a huge kind of table turning week potentially here. So since we went through ours, Steve, talk us through a little bit about why you like Chargers +4 this week.
Yeah, obviously Seth mentioned earlier about the Lab McConkey injury with the knee and kind of what that looks like for the offense utilization. But I mean, for me, what I'm really banking on is the defense of the Chargers. This is one that I've really been kind of sleeping on all year long in terms of how good that Chargers defense can be, both against the pass and the run. The Chiefs have really been struggling with subpar competition when they get to the big dogs of the league, a la the Bills. They're not there. Now, of course, it's the regular season. I'm not going anything further than that. What I expect here, though, is the Chargers to really kind of fit that mold of a team that's going to make the Chiefs struggle, that's going to make this offense, who we have not seen be anywhere near as explosive as the years past, really kind of struggle with. And I can see this being some ridiculous, Pat Mahomes throws a ball, a bird catches it, flies it into like the 5-yard line to drop it into Travis Kelce's bread basket and kick a field goal to win. So I'm taking the points for the Chargers here. I think that's just a little too talented of a team for the Chiefs to skate by with or without McConkey. I think they'll kind of adjust here. The J.K. Dobbins injury may rear its ugly head here for sure. That's definitely one I'd like to have, but I think it's just too much for them to not cover more than a field goal. Yeah,
number 6 overall excuse me, I'm only looking at the past 4 weeks. Let me update that. But yeah, really all year they've been one of the better defenses. So number 4 overall defense in e-paper play allowed, and top 5 in passing and top 10 still in rushing. So even individually. So all right, yeah, not bad. And before we move off this and talk about model stuff, I just want to we sprinkled this in, or we haven't really put the rubber stamp on it, at least from what I believe. But are we doing the Waffle House punishment?
Oh, yeah. I vote for that. I'm fine for that.
Okay. 18 hours in a Waffle House for the loser. Every waffle is an hour off. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Waffle House gonna have to pay me. I'm gonna have like negative
2?
-3 hours. What's that stuff?
Should we do the bottom 2? But the second to last is like they only have to do 9 hours. I think we're all
wow. You gluttony for punishment. Look at you. Damn.
Well, I think we're all capable of eating 9 waffles in an hour.
In an hour.
So then you would only just have to spend an hour there.
9 waffles? 9. You know how big those things are? Maybe I'll take a gummy beforehand. It's a different story. Yeah.
A gummy. All right, wait. I want to get Steve. This is an interesting take. Lincoln Riley to the Bears. He was with Caleb for 3 years. Got like a Heisman out of him. What's your take on that?
I get it. I personally would rather take a Shanahan. Give me a Shanahan to kind of get in there and do something with that. But I'm not mad at it. But listen, we can't be this much worse. Like, we need a Caleb whisperer, someone who just gets him. So I wouldn't want Lincoln Riley as an HC. I take him as an offensive coordinator though.
It's way early, but some early odds-on favorites for the Bears position. I don't know if you saw this. Cliff Kingsbury.
I heard, yeah.
Plus 500, leader in the clubhouse at the moment. I would highly advise against it.
You guys are a dumb franchise. You understand Bill Belichick's available, right?
Nobody else wants him. Tell that to the Jets.
I want him. He will never work for the Jets. The Jets have already burned that bridge.
Right.
So I think that's a one-way street. I think they may want him. He doesn't want them, kind of thing. Yeah. I don't know. That's interesting. Yeah. I mean, Lincoln has his own trouble there with USC. Sure. Is the Caleb Whisperer the offensive rookie of the year at the 76ers, whatever his name is? They seem to be the same character, but in different sports.
Oh.
He went to Duke. He sings on TikTok, paints his nails.
Oh, yeah.
He's basketball Caleb Williams.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. But yeah, the Lincoln Riley situation, that would feel like just a carbon copy of the Cliff Kingsbury situation. So yeah, I either one of those, yeah, we'll see. I wouldn't be too high on either one of those if I were you.
Detroit, I think you want Detroit's head coach, right? That's the
OC.
I would run through a wall for Dan Campbell.
Yeah,
for sure.
Dan Campbell or the OC?
Well, you said the head coach, right?
No,
you want the offensive coordinator?
Yeah, the OC.
Yeah.
He's going to leave. He's going to leave. He's not going to.
Okay. All right. Let's. We kind of already talked about it in some respects for throughout the matchups that we've talked about, but let's talk about NFL model predictions for Week 14. Talked about all 3 of them already, but just for the record's sake, Seth, go ahead if you want to just run through the official plays and the numbers that we got for all three of them.
Yeah, no problem. We're all on 3 bets this week for this NFL Sunday. We're on Miami -6.5, -105. We would not recommend playing that at anything more than -105, -6.5. So -6, 110 is okay, but nothing worse than -105, 6.5. Philadelphia -12, -110, and Pittsburgh -6.5, -110. Again, would not touch that on the other side at 7 or through 7. So those are the 3 plays this week. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm kind of over being able to like say how I feel. I don't care. I just whatever.
It is what it is, right? Yeah. And then let's just talk about it real quick too. So model overall year to date, 30 and 28. It is currently in a losing position. I think it's 51 and some change percent right now. And we sweep the board this week. I think that basically gets us back to break even for the year. So yeah, I mean, still season's obviously not over, but not ideally where we'd like to be with it. But it is what it is. You're not gonna win every week. You're not gonna win every game. If variance is gonna hit, so we're hoping to be the value is the value, and we're hoping now the variance is gonna be on our side a little bit this week and moving forward as well. So
if we sweep, we'll be at 54%.
Yeah, we'll be at
54. Oh, okay, yeah, sorry, I did my math wrong then.
I mean, yeah, we're seeing CLV. It's actually been the real weird season. I was talking to Adam Chernoff from RAS on live about it. Like, from my perspective, we've been winning the games where we see no CLV, and then pretty much any game we see CLV on, we don't cover. It's been really, really, really weird. And he was kind of saying it's been a weird spot for them. Like, specific historical positions that they would hone in on, like, just don't pan out. And I think it's been a lot of end of game variance. Like the game states are just not, they're like getting there. Like Tampa Bay was on the 1 yard line against Carolina to score, and they can't. So it's just stuff like that where you're just not getting there, even though you're getting there. You're getting the CLV. Yeah. The game state is there. It's just that like 1 or 2 plays that should or would have to happen in order to fall your way aren't. And so it is what it is. I mean, again, you won't hear us. The only thing I can tell you is, why do I think I have an edge? Why do I think we have an edge? Because we get CLV on 60% of our bets. That's the only thing I can tell you of why you can even deem you have an edge, is because a marketplace is saying, yeah, you got a good position. What does it actually pan out in a 58 game sample? No, right. It doesn't have to. Now, the good news is here we'll bet another 30 games. So we have some volume coming.
Yeah. And not to add on to that point though, like that's the fickle nature of the NFL generally. Like we're talking about a 58 game sample size, right? And there's no rule even saying that in a 100 game sample size you have to realize your edge, or even in 150 or 2. This could be
the fickle game of sports betting or gambling in general.
Yeah, for sure. But just based on the model that we currently have and the volume that we get, like it's ever more kind of in the forefront of the mind. So yeah, is what it is at this point. I mean, again, we think the value is the value. So the process does not change. Not going to focus or worry too much about results yet, but we obviously need to or want to hope to get into the winning column here this week. So looking forward to doing that. We'll see how it all shakes out. So, all right. I'm excited though. Still December football. Like I said, I think it's one of the better times of the year in the NFL. So should be a fun weekend for you guys. Appreciate y'all hanging out and tuning in with us. Chad and others, appreciate y'all commenting on the videos as well. Don't forget to like the video if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel, please, if you haven't as well. Helps us out a great deal. We love doing this, and we'll continue to keep doing it for you guys as long as you see value. So it's been real, boys. I'm actually slightly buzzed from that little whiskey that I had here. So
hey,
good stuff.
That's the good stuff.
That is the good stuff, boys. So all right, we'll be back next week talking NFL Week 15. Good luck and good night to everyone. We'll see you then.
Take care.